Now that we've finished the soldering, let's go ahead and clean up the build a little bit. So we'll go ahead and tighten. Let's do this. Tighten these standoffs. So you might need to hold them tight. They don't need to be too tight. You don't want to strip them. But you don't want them also the screws to fall at the bottom while you're building. So these four are for the flight controller, so we're not going to tighten those. So I'm just hanging on kind of lightly with the pliers. I don't want to be cinching super tight. So those are pretty good. And these ones back here. Okay. And this was with the tool that came with our motors. And so now let's go ahead and put a zip tie to hold on these front two ESCs so they're not flopping around. They're pretty good in place the way that they're soldered, the wires, but we don't want the wires being what's really what's holding those down. But since they are in place, we don't need to do these super tight. These edges are fairly sharp, so if we don't want to go so tight, so tight that it's going to cut the zip tie. And this other zip tie. Yeah, just putting it right across that white strip. That one was a little bit higher. I suppose it doesn't really matter. My knife's getting dull. Probably because I use it for soldering. Okay. Okay, so we got zip ties on all the ESCs, and let's go ahead and finish off our motor screws. So let's go ahead and do these two up here. And so these are our longer motor screws, but not. So the longer motor screws, but not the really long ones that we have been using through the frame. So the longer screws that actually came with the motors. Okay. Put another screw. And we can actually go ahead and do this last one pretty tight. And go around and tighten up each of these. Oops. There's nothing like losing a motor screw mid-flight. One you don't notice. It's when you lose two and then the other one comes off. Oops, I'm going to add these screws tightening them. That way I know the motor's positioned the way we want it. So actually, I need to loosen this up because we need to shift this motor over just a tad. To be able to get these two screws in. Okay. And we can go ahead and tighten. We gotta shift this motor over as well. So let's loosen first so we can shift it over, get the holes to line up. And there we go. And tighten. Tighten. Tighten it up. And last one. Okay, now for the last motor. And we should end up with 4 extra of these little, or these longer screws. I'm going to loosen this up to center it. Which are spares in case we do lose a screw during a flight. And tighten. Tighten. Okay, last screw tightening up. There we go. One thing that happens is these sides, right where the motors are, take a lot of the beating when it gets hit. So we're going to go ahead and just put a little bit of hot glue around on this edge here. There we go. So we don't want to get it on the motor, but we do kind of want to get it on the little bumpers here. So just going around, just kind of putting a little coating of hot glue. around the edge. Okay. And they sell 3D printed little bumpers that you could use instead. Or I guess, I don't know if they sell them, but there are little 3D printed ones. Let's finish up adding this hot glue to motor 2. Just kind of a nice little edge bumper. Oops, way too much right there. Okay. Nice little edge. And that's all 4 motors. Now we can just go around and even it up a little bit. Add some to those spots that need a little bit more. Okay, and now we have a nice big mess, but I'll add it for a couple little final things. We should probably take care of this. I was thinking we could do heat shrink, slip it on over all of it, but I'm just going to put electrical tape on it. Heat shrink would probably be a little bit cleaner, but this way you don't need to buy additional heat shrink if you don't want to. So I cut a piece off. I'm going to slip it I'm going to stick the knife between and then stick the electrical tape on it and use that to pull it through. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap the positive and I'll do that again, stick the knife in, just stick it to the knife, maybe it did not go through, there we go. Had to push it through a little bit. Okay. And now, let's do another piece. And same thing, except for we'll have the sticky side going the other way. Wrap it around. And yeah, why not? We'll see if we can punch it through. Oops, I cut it just a little bit. That's okay. So that's pretty good on there. And then just for good measure, take a good chunk of electrical tape. And just wrap it around both. Since we'll be pulling on this a lot. And I wasn't actually very happy with the soldering job I did onto this XT60. So, there we go. All wrapped up. Okay, and the last little thing before we put this top plate on is twisting up the RX. So I actually feel like we have a lot of extra wire on this, so I'm gonna try to twist it pretty tight. Okay, there we go.